Hey everybody, I'm back. I've got a little loose space in my tripod. So, I'm back. This is Laura from McNeely Garden Studios here talking to you in Art and Answers. If you didn't see the previous video, I went through the whole process of transferring our designs into your substrate so that you can have the fun of painting it. So, let me have a sip quickly. So if you need some guidance on that, you can always ask. Hello, Donna. Hello, Jamie. So you can always ask, but you can also refer to that video that I just made. And I'm going to put that in featured so that it's something that you can always refer to. And probably the introductory guide, the first guide. Okay, so we got everything put onto our substrate. If you can see, real careful, I put the design on. And we are going to be painting True North today. I'm so excited. I've had so many private messages from you guys excited about this design. And I am excited about it as well. We're going to be talking about why it's important to step back, reevaluate, and gain a new, fresh perspective on things sometimes. So I'm going to, you notice that I just kind of broke the seal on my brush. This is not a new brush, but when you wash your brush and lay it down flat, it always gets stiff. So I always like to bend it and get it. So I'm going to put it in my water. Get some water into my bristles. This is a very large brush. And we're going to get started by, excuse me, by wetting this paper. Watercolor paper has sizing in it. And when I was just talking about that stiffness there, it was not sizing, but sizing feels like that. Sometimes when you buy new clothing, you'll notice it's a little bit stiff, and that especially nicer clothes, because it has sizing in it so that it will ship nicely and get to you with minimum wrinkles. They also put sizing in the bristles of paintbrushes. That's why new paintbrushes feel the way they do. There we go. Guess what? This design is not a wet on wet. I have to dry my design. I was just talking to you, and this is a wet on dry design. See? There is some blending. So I'm going to mute you so you don't have to listen, and I'm going to dry this paper up, okay? Sorry. Okay. My paper's all dry. You can tell because when you put your hand on it, especially the back of your hand, you can feel that it is not cool anymore. So I'm going to turn the camera down here and I'm going to start showing you how to paint this. Okay, here we go. Thanks for your grace. I don't think I've ever done that in my life, maybe. So, all right. So I have clean water. You've got to start off with very clean water. And can you see the, nope. Let's see, let's move this. You know who I am. I won't use this a little bit later. Let me see if I can get the reference in the frame a little bit better where you can see. How about that? A little bit. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to be doing is similar to what I was just doing, but I'm going to use my smaller pointed brush, and I'm just going to start putting some water. This part is wet on wet, but it's not going to be all over the entire background because we have a white background. I've already sprayed my paints, and I will tell you, I've been listening to a book on Audible. What is it called? More of Less is what it's called. More of Less. And it's really great. You know, you guys know that I have a problem with clutter and I have been tackling that issue. And so it was really interesting because in one of the chapters he's talking about explaining to you marketing strategies and what is being used on you. And I found it fascinating because we have all fallen into the trap of marketing. And so they just convince you that you need stuff that you really don't need. And here's a perfect example of that. This is the bottle that I usually spray my paints with. This was $1 at the hardware store. It has, you know, 32 ounces of water in here. But, you know, it's not snazzy. It's not flashy. It looks like something that came from the hardware store. So, yesterday when I was at the hobby store, I had to get this super deluxe fancy one, you know, because it's got micro droplets and, you know, it was $4. You don't need all this stuff, but, you know, it makes you feel good sometimes to have it, to do these things. So I'm happy with my new micro droplet sprayer, which I have already sprayed into my paints. And I'm just poking my brush into my paints to kind of load it. And I'm just going to start putting this color into these rays of the sun. And this looks kind of bright, but I'm going to start adding other colors to it. So, and I'm going to kind of do this in layers. And you notice, maybe I'll get a little closer, you notice that it's only flowing where the water is. If I had left it where I had it earlier with all the water all over the whole page, then this would be going everywhere. This particular one is really fun. Really, the end result is really rewarding, but it is a little bit tedious because of all these parts. So I will just warn you about that. You might want to put some music on, or like I like to do, I like to put the birds on, get this all going. And don't forget, you don't have to paint every single piece. You can leave little white spots because those are natural highlights. Maybe not a lot of them, but some. And now as you're starting to come around, you can go back and add some oranges. We're also going to add some color in here with colored pencil. So I'm noticing that my cool micro droplet thing hasn't given me enough water. So I'm gonna have to add some. All right. And so I'm just putting this orange, this darker color up close to the face because I know I want the face to be a brighter yellow. So I want there to be more contrast here. And that is one way that I can do it. And if you did not see my live on McNeely Garden Studios page, I did include it in Art and Answers as a bonus. So go back and look at, there's a link in that post with the document that tells all about how to get your whites white and really make them pop. So I wanted you guys to have the benefit of that. Hope you enjoy it. All right, now I've kind of gotten back to a dry portion. You certainly can use a smaller brush if you care to. I almost exclusively use this brush. I don't know why. Easy, I guess. So, another book, last year I really decided that I was going to double down on the books. And I just had kind of a nervous year, and I just could not get myself to sit down and read. I mean, even like, okay, I'm just going to sit down and read 10 pages. I just could not relax and I just couldn't concentrate. So I finally made the decision that I needed to start listening to my books. And so I got Audible, and let me tell you, it was the best decision. I have enjoyed it so much. I got through 10 different books last year. So I plan to do that more this year. And I know there's 2 lessons this year that are based on some of the things that I learned in those books. So today is the first one, and it's based on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And if you've not read that or listened to it or whatever, I would put that on your to-do list. It is absolutely fascinating, and it's just full of really good advice. But we're only going to focus on 2 of the 7 habits. And those habits mainly are to be proactive, and which is number 1, and I think it's number 5. Seek first to understand, and then to be understood. So think about that. So many wise people have said, oh, it's better to listen more than you talk, and that is exactly true. I am going to turn this a little bit so that I don't drag my hand through it. Anybody else do that? So you're going to listen first, but you don't have to be satisfied with just listening. But if you want people to listen, you need to make sure that you're able to be understood. There's a big, big concept there. So, and see, as this is dry, I just keep adding all different colors of orange. I just keep moving around in my palette. Now see, that's kind of harsh right there. I just dried off my brush a little bit, and I'm just going to keep on moving it around. And it will fade into that water. Kind of mix a little bit. There we go. And it's important to just sit back sometimes and reflect and think about, well, why do I behave that way with certain things? What are my triggers? What am I thinking about when I come to that? And a fresh perspective is choosing to pause and step back to see a situation differently. Because people don't see the world as it really is. They see the world as they see themselves. That also is an important concept to think about. Because there is no way to understand another person if you try to put your own beliefs, your own religion, your own experiences on them. It's just not going to work out. Okay, I just kind of went back and I was sort of defining the shape of the face there from the rays. Be careful when you're turning your stuff around because your color is going to move within that water and it may or may not be what you want. So you can't just assume that everybody understands you completely because you don't understand other people completely either. So you have to go from there. All right, I'm going to let this start to dry before we go into doing the face and the colors on the lips and the features. So we're going to keep going back and forth with this piece. And I will also, did you notice that we didn't put the clouds in? We're just going to kind of do that freehand. There was no reason to add all that muddiness to the design. So just like I didn't do all these lines, and so we're going to add all that freehand. I also have, and I'm going to need to include it for you, I also have this compass because it's true north. And originally I had thought, oh, I'm going to put it kind of in this area. You can add that as mixed media, or you can add it right into the piece, however you like. It was my original vision, but it just didn't make the final cut. And that's the way that works sometimes, you know? So I'm going to get, where did I move it to? Let me stand up a moment. I have to get something that I can use this. I have a little bit of yellow in my water, and I don't want to make green just yet on my waves. So I'm going to use this 1994 Pink Floyd concert cup. That was the first concert that I ever went to. And I'm going to use it as my fresh water. put my fancy spritzer down there. Okay. Now, this I am going to use wet on wet. So we're gonna kind of go through. Remember that the foam on the waves have a lot more white in them because they're foamy, they're bubbly. So we're gonna kind of put the wet on wet in the lower parts. Can you see? In the lower parts of the waves. Okay. And we're going to use blues and turquoise, some greens, some purples or maybe lavender in the wave. And then we're going to kind of go back and just kind of blob it in the foam. And thank you so much for so many of you came to the Note to Self workshop that I had on the 30th, December the 30th. That was really fun. I got a lot of messages. People were loving all that. So that's good. Really talk about perspective. Talk about getting yourself in the mindset of what we're talking about today. That was good. There we go. So your perspective comes from how you perceive things. And you can react automatically, like kind of your trigger, your knee-jerk reaction, the way you always behave. And that's the old you, right? That's the old perspective. That's the way you react to everything. But if you're looking for some change and being able to handle things a little better, you just can't attack it the same old way you have always attacked everything. So, so you have to be thinking about ways to not react, not just react. You want to be able to start thinking about responding intentionally. That will give you a new perspective. Now, you're going to want to put your darker colors in the deepest part of the water. So we're going to put in, you notice that all this is pretty much dried up from past experiences. I just wet it and go with it again. Okay, so we're going to put all this dark part closer to the bottom. Again, just like this, you're going to put the dark places next to where you know there's going to be a lighter place so that you have more contrast, more interest. It's also going to be underneath this because there's a shadow. And that's what's fun about having the wet on wet technique. You just keep dabbing it in there, keep putting it in there. It's gonna just flow. So how do you start getting that perspective? It's hard, right? It's hard to not do what you always have done. And so you're just going to kind of stop yourself and think, what else might be true here? There's always two sides to a story, always. And so you need to be looking for that other, that other person's ideas, that other person's reasoning for the things that they did, and stop just reacting. See, I had too much pigment there, so I'm wiping it off, making my brush a little bit drier, and kind Kind of sucking it up a little bit there. Okay. I'm going to get another dryer paper, and I'm going to dry this because I don't want this to soak back into my page. There we go. So I'm just going to put that over there. All right, now I'm going to start adding like the turquoise and the green, and we're going to let it mix in here. I want it to be a little brighter than that. Let's see. There we go. So all I did was add a little bit of green to my turquoise. There we go. You do have to pay attention when you're doing this, when you're doing this kind of action, because you don't want to scrub your paper so much that you end up disturbing the fibers, all right, of the paper. I also did not put this in here, and I'm going to do that. Just kind of the rest of the ocean. There we go. So when you're proactive, let's just kind of recap a little bit. The first habit from the from that book is be proactive. So when you're in charge, remember that you're in charge of your response, not your circumstances, but your response. That's very different than just reacting. And then seek first to understand means that when you try to understand before judging, you get a whole new insight. And when you change how you look at something, the meaning of the outcome is completely different. So you think, instead of why is this so frustrating and nothing works, think to yourself, well, what is this situation trying to teach me? What part of it can I control? And then all of a sudden you'll just have a little more, you'll have more control. You'll feel, when you feel like you're more in control, you have more insight. Okay. All right, so this is beginning to mix and blend pretty nicely. I'm going to start mixing up a violet. I get some water, and I'm going to mix a violet over here a little bit. I don't want to get it too, I want to start dabbing some purple, but not purple, just kind of around, kind of on the bottom parts of the foam. And we're just dabbing this on dry. And I'm not going to get it, I don't want it to really blend into the blues. Not just yet. So I'm trying not to let those touch a little bit. And then I'm going to go back and get some of the other colors that we've already blended up over here. And I'm going to start putting them sort of on the tops. Let there be some highlights in between. And of course, we're going to pull all this out with the ink. Let me see if anybody's commenting. Okay. I know one perspective that I have been watching with great interest. I'm not sure how she's going to react to this, but I've been watching my daughter learn how wonderful parenthood is. And you talk about how perspectives changing. She was always a really good kid. I mean, I have nothing to complain about. But I notice some things shifting in her. She sees now why we as parents did some of the things that we did. And she's beginning to feel that unconditional love that you feel as a parent, if you were blessed with having that experience. And so I noticed that perspective. I've seen her like stop in her tracks. I have felt myself stop in my tracks because all of a sudden I don't want to do it the same as I always did it. And you begin to change. All right. We're sort of, I would say this is sort of the messy middle here. This is not looking very pretty, but it will. I'm going to put a little more turquoise in this area. And see, you do you. If you like more, yellows or warmer colors or whatever, you can have that reflecting in your ocean here. And see, this is beginning to dry. So we got the mixiness of the wet on wet, and now I'm just adding some wet on dry, almost dry brushing some of this, and it's gonna give it a whole different look, whole different effect. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to this purple, and you often want to use different colors of your design in different places so that it all has a cohesive look. So I'm going to start kind of in the corner. I'm not going to do all these because we're going to have to get the rays of the sun a little drier. But we're going to go through here and just make some of these clouds. Again, you can use a smaller brush if you prefer. Watercolor is always going to dry lighter than it looks when you put it down, but this was pretty dark. I didn't really want it quite that dark. And I'm going to start with these purples, pinks, blues, and like I said, the ink is going to really bring it out. Just going to kind of start getting an idea of the composition, where to put these things. And we're also going to shade these a little bit with our colored pencils. See that? You feel like that's a little bit too loud and too dark? Just wet your brush, dry it off, and suck it back up again. Make sure your purples and your yellows don't, if your yellows are still wet, make sure they don't touch, because you'll end up with brown. See, this is where I can see that compass being real faintly shining through right through here. I may still put it in, you never know. And when you have your colors mixed up in a palette like this, it's great because it's then pure color. And you can go back and use that same color again somewhere else. Like we're gonna come back and fill all this in between the rays, and you'll still have the same color. You won't be trying to mix the same color again and wondering, oh no, you know, is this gonna work out or not? So yeah, it's gonna be fine. Put kind of a large one here. I do like to use odd numbers of things, because it's just more pleasing to the eye to have things off center a little bit. And it's easier to do that with an odd number. Okay, we're gonna come back and add that. All right, I'm going to, where's I? All right, I'm digging those waves. I know it makes you want to go there, doesn't it? All right, I'm going to mute you and dry this all off so we can move on to the next section, okay? Okay. So now we're going to go to the face. Did you notice when I was drying everything that I often go and dry some on the underneath side as well? That helps with the buckling of your paper. I didn't do it quite so much over here, so now it's going to kind of fold it up there. I'm going to hit it a little bit more. Got it a little bit too hot. Impatient. Honestly, the best policy is to do each layer and then walk away. Go put your laundry in the dryer or whatever. It's better to just let it dry, but sometimes you just can't, or you're too excited about it. So, all right. So I'm gonna go. This has got my blue water in it. I'm gonna just go back into this water. A lot of times you can get your brush clean simply from friction in the water, but when you're using light colors like water, like white or yellow, you really need clean water. So, all right, so I'm going to paint this little guy's face. You guys think this is a woman or a man? I feel like it's kind of feminine. So I'm gonna call it a her. So I'm going to put water on the eyelid, the nose, everything but the eye and the iris. Because we're going to get this base yellow in, and then we're going to go back in and start creating the features with the oranges, which we're using as low lights, as shadows, okay? Do be careful not to grab color from inside your rays, because if you get them wet enough, it'll come up, okay? So just be careful. All right, go right there on the other eyelid. I picked up a little orange there. Okay, and I went over the lips because that's okay. We're gonna add sort of a peach color there. And I'm gonna puck my brush kind of directly into this almost neon yellow. This is very bright. We're gonna see, and we're gonna tone that down a little bit. But it's always nice to get your lights in there first. And we got our little chin. Go across the nose and the lips. Inside the lips is going to be dark, so that's okay. You can get that wet. You can get that yellowish. Then we go across the eyelids. Okay. All right, while this is still wet, I'm gonna get a darker yellow. It's not really an ochre, but it's kind of one shade above it. And I'm gonna kind of give her a little contour to her forehead. Give her a reason why all those rays are coming out the top of her head. See how much contrast there is there? So you want that to blend. There we go. We're gonna put a little blush on her cheek. And think about what you want to blend and what do you want to end up looking soft with the wet on wet, as opposed to what you want to drop in as a little bit more precise, you know? I'm going to only do like the apple of her lips. I don't want that to get out on her face. And we're going to do her little chin. Give that a little definition. And on edges of her nose and the bridge of her nose. Now, if you wanted a little more highlight, you can dry off your brush and you can kind of suck some of this color right off the tops of her cheeks where, ironically, the light would be shining if she wasn't the sun. But we're just going to treat her like a human figure, okay? There we go. Okay. So, can you see how her features are beginning to come out? How about that? I knew this one was going to be a little bit more in depth than we're used to. I'm going to go to a little bit smaller brush, and I'm going to start adding in some other colors into these clouds we got brewing here. Just, you know, just to add some interest to it. And you can use the tip of your brush. Kind of get some smaller swirls. So now the rays are dry on her face, around her face. So you can start with these clouds and you can start like getting them in between the rays, which are kind of like her hair, I guess. There we go. And so we're going to fill that whole thing in. It doesn't matter if this is kind of rough. I kind of liked it that way because we're going to go back with the pen, with the ink. And that's going to be what actually defines the swirls of the clouds. I wouldn't say make this messy, but you don't have to make it, you know, so precise. And so while I'm doing this, I'm just kind of letting the features of her face dry naturally. And so you see we're kind of mimicking the colors in the ocean, in the sky, as just natural colors. Giving it a kind of a cohesive look. all while showcasing the warm colors of the sun. And we're just going to start filling in all around these rays. Sometimes I can talk and paint, but today I'm having a hard time. What we're doing today is a little bit more technical than we used to. All right. And that's good. I like to present fun, easy things, and then sometimes they're a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging. And speaking of challenging, how are y'all doing with your 31-day prompts for your journaling? I've been keeping along with each one. I'm writing them on my answers on another page, but I tell you what, they're not super easy. It's definitely been thought-provoking. I have to make a little bit more purple here. I want some right up in here so it doesn't look like she's just floating in midair. There we go. How's that? I feel like there needs to be one or two right here. So we're gonna like kind of poking out a little bit right here. Maybe a bigger one. Okay. Now, I made her eyes sort of an olive color because I could kind of see that in the ocean, even though we didn't use an olive color in the ocean. That was just sort of a administrative decision, I suppose. So I'm just going to, she has, if you notice, she has she's really blowing, so her eyes are kind of squinty. So you're not going to have the perfect roundness of the iris. They are partially hidden by both lids, so you can only see like parentheses of her eyes. So I have a drop on my brush. I don't want that to drip in there. All right, so I'm just going to kind of put this in here. And you know, the whites of people's eyes are not actually white. So we're going to kind of go through and add some of that in there as well. And I'm not going to color it in completely. Again, we're going to use colored pencils, and so you're going to get a lot of shading and stuff from that. Now, it is very important to try to get both the eyes looking at the same angle. And I tell you, I just think that comes from experience. It is very difficult sometimes to get that, to make that look right. And we're kind of looking at the edge of her face sideways, 3/4. And so her eye actually looks like it's sort of bulging out a little bit. And that also was on dry. So I'm going to kind of put a little dab of water on here. And I'm just poking my brush into the paint. It's just about the right consistency. See, it's kind of creamy. It's not watered down at all. See that? Just kind of creamy. And we're going to add her. I'm trying to see where I'm putting my hand. I don't want to put my hand down in it. But we're just going to kind of gently put in her eyebrows, because we don't want them to look wonky. There we go. I'm going to put in a little bit of eyeliner. There we go. Okay. I've got kind of a lot of paint right here. I'm actually going to dab it off and use it. So we're going to put a little bit of shadow and blushing on the edge of the nose. And we're going to add it here to the lip. Just kind of the top part. Leave some, don't color it in completely. There we go. And we're going to put kind of a darker color on the inside of that lip. There also needs to be a little shadow right here. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of put a little right here. And I am going to soften that one with a little water. So I don't want that to be just like a line. There we go. And perhaps right here. Put some right here. Okay. So, see, her features are starting to come out. Doing good. I'm on today. Well, good. All right. Is that it? Is that it? I think that may be it. I would like to put a little bit of this neon pink in her lips, because she's really blowing, and that's going to really size that up a little bit. Okay. All right. The rest of it is colored pencil and ink. And so we're going to use the micron pens. Like I said, I almost always use 08, but you may have places that you want a little smaller or a little thicker. I have two different kinds of colored pencils. These are just regular old colored pencils. And I think I have another set. Where the heck are they? Anyway, just regular colored pencils, whereas these are watercolor pencils, which means that you can use these colors and then touch them with water and soften them a little bit. Sometimes you don't want that. you don't have to put water on it, and they won't soften unless you put water. But regular colored pencils, you can do that. But this has to be completely dry. And in order to get all the details of the ocean and the eyes, it's gonna have to be dry. So I'm gonna dry this off a little bit, and I'm gonna show you some of the details, because there's no reason for you to watch me do all these little bubbles. But I'm gonna show you how to locate where to put these, how to get the foam in there. Swirls are just swirls, but I'll show you that. And where to put your darks for your lines in your face, okay? So I'm gonna start wrapping this up, but I'm gonna dry it first. Okay, so I think I'm mostly going to use, I almost always end up doing this, using the watercolor pencils. And we're gonna start kind of shaping these waves up with the lines. So this is some foam, so we're gonna do like this. We're gonna let these go up this way. See, and if this turns out to be too harsh, that's what I love about watercolor pencils. You can kind of get them back down again. So see, I'm creating an undertone of all this. There we go. And I do tend to, as I use my colors, I do tend to lay them off to the side so I know exactly which colors I have used. And if I want to go back and use something again, then I know that it's the same exact color. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but sometimes it does. So, and I'm just sort of deepening this. And on this type of paper, you're going to get a texture because this is not smooth. There is smooth watercolor paper. I don't tend to use it. I don't know why. I like what I like when I like it, I guess. All right, so I'm gonna get this green. All right, and I'm not gonna do all of it, but I'm gonna kind of soften some of this on the bottom part. And even though this is not the bottom part of the page, this is the bottom part of the wave. There we go. Then we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of go to the different elements and show you what I did. And then you can take the time to enjoy doing all the details because the finishing part is the best part. So I'm just kind of going and selecting areas of these swirls that can be darkened and giving a little more drama to. There we go. We'll put some here. Same thing, and put some water on it. Give it a little more. Some of it I like the texture of the pencil, and some of it I just like to leave the way it was. I'm gonna get that a little closer so you can tell. See the difference between here and up here? How much that really adds to it. All right, I'm gonna get some orange, and I am going to remove this. I'm gonna add some to her face because this is a little bit different dimension. I'm gonna leave the highlight in the center of the eyelid. I'm gonna put those little lines between your lip and your nose. Put a little blush on the top of her cheek, even though she is the sun. There we go. See how her features are beginning to come out even more. And I'm gonna put some yellow around it. These little things have a name, but I don't know what it is. All right. There are a lot of details that you're going to be able to pull out of the reference photo, which I've already supplied you, that you're going to be able to finish this off and make it look really, really good. Soften these little things right here. Okay. And now the pen detail. See, I put those aside, but yet I still have the ones that I've used right here. And to me, that's just a really useful housekeeping tool. Okay. Bring you down a little bit so you can see. All right, so to me, what makes these waves look a little bit Japanese is you just kind of got the little wabi-sabi foam. It's kind of like making coral. You just kind of go any old way. You can make them connect. You can make them not connect. Just pay attention to the overall design. You want your waves to end up looking like they have direction, like they're moving. You can even have some literally blank ones, and sometimes that's good for movement because it shows which way the wave is crashing. Okay? It takes a little bit, but you'll start to get the hang of, you know, where to put this, how to make it kind of directional. Okay? Then you're going to go in and give it some direction this way. Okay? And you just keep on putting lines in to give it weight. And leave it a little open. I'm going to go in a different direction here. Leave it a little more open toward where it's lighter. On the swirls now, be careful about this because this is not waterproof ink. So wherever you put this, make sure that you're finished with your watercolor and your pencil and wetting it. So I know that I'm finished with with these. So I'm just going to kind of start, and I'm just going to put a swirl just kind of right over top of it. Like that. In fact, I want another one. There we go. Okay. So you're going to do that with the waves. You're going to do that with the swirls with the clouds. And with the face, less is more. You don't want to just totally outline everything. We're going to do the eyes last. So I am going to kind of outline the rays. Every line does not have to touch or be complete. There we go. I am going to put kind of a darker line around this cheek because I want some contrast there. I want some contrast lining pretty much her lip. I want a darker, not completely colored in space of the mouth where she's blowing so hard. Kind of an idea of the chin, an idea of this cheek. You'll find that there are some curves you just do better in one angle than the other angle. All right, now the eyes. We're going to give her a line along the lash line. We're going to, I'm going to do it this way. All right. Well, we'll finish the nose too while you're there. So lashes are three-dimensional, so you want them going out in all directions. You can't just have them all straight out. So we're going to go kind of angled, and you want them to be off. We're looking at the side of her face, so you want to be able to see them. There we go. You're going to always include the duct of the eye, and we'll include the lashes. Why the sun needs lashes, I don't know, but we're going to give her some nice voluptuous lashes. We'll give her a few here at the bottom. There we go. And of course, this will be finished with the rays and whatnot. So I know you will have a lot of fun completing those details. To get back on our chat about a fresh perspective, I want you to look at things with curiosity instead of frustration, and think to yourself, what have I noticed from this? What can I learn from it? And a fresh thought doesn't erase your problems. It reveals your possibilities. I'm gonna pull you back up here. And when your possibilities are revealed to you, it gives you power. Power, at least you feel like you have power over your own destiny. How about that? So keep on with your journaling. Today's the 8th, so this says, when I feel triggered, what is the most common automatic reaction? What is your automatic reaction? I don't do conflict. Conflict makes me very nervous, and I kind of recede from it. I don't want to learn anything from it. I don't want to be around it. I want to just completely remove myself from it. And that's not always the best way. So as I'm getting older and as I'm maturing and as I'm researching for all this to teach you and show you, I'm learning just like you are. And so sometimes it's better to go back to number 1, which was proactivity, and number 5 in the 7 habits of effective people, which is listen first and then make yourself heard. Make other people listen to you. Make you be understood. So I hope that you enjoyed January's Art and Answers. I really love this design. I can't wait to see yours. I hope you will share them. I hope that you will make comments. I hope you will tell me what you're thinking each day with your prompts. It's just been an interesting journey already here in January. So again, thank you so much. Donna says, I shut down. Uh-oh. Oh, you shut down in the conflict. Yeah, me too. Yeah, or I try to leave. Anyway, so I'm so happy to have you here. Got some really great posts coming up this month, so be commenting on those as well. And let's just get to know each other a little better. Okay? Thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.